From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central Television. My name is Mazino Appeal. The top stories tonight. Political groups reject Rivers Assembly's move to impeach Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy. And former Chief of Army Staff Tukur Buratai files defamation charges against former Major General Danjuma Ali Kerfi. Also coming up, protests break out in the United States after ICE agents shot woman dead during immigration raid.
In business, hope rises for Nigerians as cooking gas price falls to around 1,000 naira per kilogram.
And in sports, Nigeria's Super Eagles arrive in Marrakesh and begin preparations for their quarter-final showdown against Algeria at the Africa Cup of Nations. Details later.
Tonight begins now. And you're welcome again. Now we begin tonight in Rivers State, where the political tension has now escalated. Now the State Assembly has formally raised notice of alleged gross misconduct against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy. Citing Section 188 of the 1999 Constitution as amended and other relevant laws, the House Leader, Major Jack, read the notice against the governor, while Deputy Leader Linda Stewart read the notice against the Deputy Governor. Key allegations include failure to present the state budget, unauthorized spending of public funds, withholding salaries and allocations due to Assembly, and bypassing proper screening of government appointments, and the demolition of the Assembly complex. The 26 lawmakers say the governor and his deputy have shown incapacity to perform their constitutional duties. The Speaker stated the notice will be officially delivered to both the governor and deputy governor within 7 days as required by law.
The governor is a threat to our democracy. It is better we all resign and leave the governor and those he wants to use to defraud Rivers people. We cannot continue to allow this to happen. We sit here, elected people, and we cannot follow, we cannot enforce the constitution. Then why are we here? Why are we sitting here? Why were we elected? For how long are we going to allow this to happen? Distinguished colleagues, enough is enough. If they want us to forget the legislature, we leave the legislature. Let only the governor and the deputy governor spend as they like and eat our money and do as they like. Why were we elected? Why do we have the legislature? Why can't we be allowed to do our job? Distinguished colleagues, I thank you for your contributions. We will follow this impeachment process through. The Supreme Court has confirmed that the governor has committed offenses against the Constitution. Let the law take its course. The law has to take its course. Mr. President, we thank Mr. President. He's a father. Mr. President has done his best. Mr. President has spoken to the governor. In my presence, Mr. President told the governor, I'm giving you a second chance. The governor refused. He gave him another one. The governor refused. How many times will Mr. President call us? Distinguished colleagues, I thank you for your contributions. Prayers have been properly canvassed by members. Those in favor of the prayers of this motion should indicate by saying ayes. Aye. Again say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, by this motion, this House hereby condemns the refusal.
Now let's take a look at some of the procedures provided for by the Constitution to impeach a governor in Nigeria. At least 1/3 of lawmakers submit a written allegation of gross misconduct to the Speaker. Then the Speaker serves a notice on the governor and all members within 7 days. The governor may reply in writing, shared with all lawmakers. Assembly votes without debate or whether to investigate, requires 2/3 majority to proceed. And Chief Judge appoints 7-member panel to provide the allegations, or rather probe the allegations. Panel investigates for up to 3 months and governor can defend himself. Panel submits finding to the Assembly. Allegations must be substantiated to continue. And finally, the Assembly votes to remove governor, and that requires 2/3 majority to approve. Meanwhile, the Ijaw Youth Council has called on the River State House of Assembly to suspend any move to impeach Governor Siminalayi Fubara. The president of the Ijaw Youth Council, Dr. Alaye Theophilus, urged lawmakers to exercise restraint and uphold constitutional processes, advising that concerns over governance be addressed through lawful legislative oversight, including proper scrutiny of alleged extra budgetary expenditure rather than impeachment proceedings.
The Ijaw Youth Council condemned in its totality the unwarranted impeachment proceeding initiated against the people governor of Rivers State, the person of Sir Siminalayi Fubara, by the Rivers State members, by Rivers State Assembly members against the wish of the people of Rivers State. This action, which is likely to put our peaceful Rivers State and the entire Niger Delta into crisis, which is counterproductive to the President Tinubu Renew Hope Agenda 2023. The purported 8th allegation against the governor are entirely empty and frivolous. The peaceful disposition of the governor of the state should not be seen as a weakness, for it is the reason we are experiencing the peace in Rivers State and the entire Niger Delta. The people of Ijaw ethnic nationality have decided to play a decent politics, but let everyone that is interested in crisis be informed that nobody is an island of violence.
So Jide Ologun is a legal practitioner and a political analyst, and he joins me now for the drama playing out in Rivers State. Thank you very much for joining us, Jide.
It's my pleasure.
So, Jide, tell me what's going on here. What do you see here when it comes to Rivers State? First of all, it seems like it's personality and it's no longer about legislation. But in your view, what do you see here happening from the matters that are arising currently? It seems there is one bit that keeps coming up, and that's the agreement or peace agreement. But what do you think?
Thank you very much. By virtue of the Constitution, the House of Assembly has the prerogative to impeach the governor if there are substantive allegations. And of course, you've rolled out the procedures. So the burden is on the House of Assembly to prove gross misconduct by the governor through those procedures. And if that is not substantiated, then it cannot fly. And that is the procedural aspect of it. And the political aspect of it is what you heard the Ijaw Council rolling out. Obviously, those who are major stakeholders know the fountain of all this. This crisis were reigning in PDP. Now that they have defected to APC, they are still rolling in crisis because apparently Wike is fighting to hold the political jugular of Rivers State. And he has even vowed that if Fubara goes on second term, his own political career will be buried and that he will do everything. So many have seen the House of Assembly members still playing the script of Wike, you see, and it's quite unfortunate. But then the governor is entitled to fair hearing in all this. I mean, what we have seen is the fact that eyes have it, but it has to be in writing, served on the governor within 7 days. It has to follow a specific procedure. Follow the procedures.
Jide, let's take a look at Section 188 now. It says impeachment must start with a proper served notice of allegation, must be signed by at least 1/3 of all members of the House, and clearly stated that the act of gross misconduct, and clearly state the act of gross misconduct. So based on the impeachment now by the House, do you think that they have gone afoul of any of these processes currently? Or what do you think might be the one thing that might make them go afoul?
It's not for us to conclude here. For instance, one of the critical concerns is the issue of extra budgetary appropriation expenditure by the governor. But recall that Rivers State just came out of a state of emergency rule led by Ibas, who was the sole administrator. And during that tenure, the National Assembly passed the budget for Rivers State, which has not even expired. So the governor still has the leverage and the space to spend. And if these allegations are there, like I said earlier, you must substantiate it. But from the body language and the expressions we are seeing, it has to do more like coming up with these allegations just to ensure that the political ambition of a particular stalwart is fulfilled.
Okay.
But then the APC in Rivers State already issued a statement that no, we are not going to allow anyone come or any group come into APC to rock the boat. And I will move in that direction. And of course, Rivers State is the second richest state in Nigeria. But are the people benefiting from that status? For how long do we have this political crisis rocking the boat in this state? And in the morning, I was commenting on this on a sister media organization, and I referred us to 1962 when a similar scenario sprang up between Chief Obafemi Awolowo and Chief Ladoke Akintola. You know, when Akintola felt the government supremacy should be upheld, and I think Awolowo was perceived as upholding the party supremacy. And you know what happened? It led to a serious crisis operation where and at the end of the day dovetailed into the 1966 coup that gave birth to the civil war that ended in 1970 or thereabout. So we need to look at all this and put the national interest first.
National interest first. Great history class, Jide. But allegations are one thing. The Constitution also states that an impeachment is not an ambush. And the governor has fair hearing eventually. But when exactly is he, or when must be the best time for him to actually be heard?
Along the line, the chief judge, we have to constitute a panel of 7 who should not be civil public officials or belong to any political party, but then to
from within the state.
From the state. Look
and
at
how
those
easy
allegations.
will that be when we have a vast majority who are not with the governor?
It's the chief judge that will nominate.
Okay.
I mean, let's state it clearly. Some governors have been impeached in Nigeria in the past. You talk of Peter Obi himself, Dariye, Nyako, Ayodele Fayose. Some of them got reinstated. Even the president of Ibadan, Ladoja, when he was governor, was impeached. Though some of them got reinstated. But that is not to say that you don't follow the due process. And why some of them were reinstated is that the due process was not followed then. And so our counsel to Rivers State is that please, national interest comes first, because we've been hearing about the Rainbow Coalition, which is saying that all parties in Rivers State will come together to fill elective office. Then where is the place of the electorate? So where's the place of democracy? So, or are we now running a politocracy? Politics of government of the politician, by the politician, for the politicians. So we need to be careful.
So Jide, real quick, and I'm out of time, but just if you can in 30 seconds, they require 2/3 of the House to actually vote on if he will be impeached. With what we have on ground right now, do you think that 2/3 quota will be met?
I mean, 26 out of 26, that is 100%, more than the 2/3. But then we don't know how they will maneuver as the procedures proceed. Because you know politicians, different engagements and consultations will be going on. But by and large, please look at the need for peace in Rivers State. Look at the need for benefiting the citizens at the expense of political battles. We don't need that right now at all.
Well, Jide, I hear you there. We absolutely don't need it. But the way it seems, Rivers State seems to be taking plenty of the cake when it comes to January right now, and all eyes on Rivers State. We'll continue to follow. And of course, when we do need to have your expert advice, we'll always have you on tonight. Thank you very much.
I'll be glad to be here.
Now, coming up tonight, President Tinubu condoles with Nigerian and international literary giant Chimamanda Adichie over son's death. Details of this and more when we return. Now, welcome back. You're still watching Tonight on News Central Television. A reminder about top stories. Political groups reject Rivers Assembly's move to impeach Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy. The former Chief of Army Staff Tukur Buratai files defamation charges against former Major General Danjuma Ali Kafi. Protests break out in United States after ICE agents shot woman dead during immigration raid. Staying with politics, Senator Datti Baba-Ahmed has officially declared his 2027 presidential bid at the Labour Party Secretariat in Abuja. The 2023 vice presidential candidate aims to lead the party following the recent exit of Peter Obi. The announcement comes just 1 week after Obi defected to the African Democratic Congress. Baba-Ahmed says his ambition predates the 2023 cycle and is not a reaction to his former principal's departure. The former lawmaker dismissed concerns regarding his religion or ethnicity. And former Abia State Governor Orji Kalu says he will not be intimidated to work against his party, the APC, for the gubernatorial election come 2027. Fielding questions from journalists at his Igbere country home, the senator representing Abia North Senatorial Zone says he is yet to see any noticeable differences in the states. Senator Orji Kalu also says he believes in the ability of his party's NWC to wade into the impeachment crisis in Rivers State.
Because I said that APC, I work for APC to win. We work for him to have won 20, and we are not going to do that again. We work for our party to win. What is wrong with that? Is that why I should receive insults? It is not acceptable by me, and I'm going to work for my party. So if he has done better, I don't know about that, because you can see that what I did in 2 years as a governor, the records are there for you to see. The money I Lesotho received in 4 months is what I received in 8 years. That is the truth. So what he has done, because it's just repainting and rebuilding the roads I built as a governor in the last 1999 and 2007. I have not seen any new major road taking place.
Now to welfare matters. The National Association of Resident Doctors has directed its members in 91 tertiary health institutions across the country to withdraw their services indefinitely from 12 midnight on Monday, January 12th. Now, they say that the directive is due to the federal government's failure to honor a memorandum of understanding entered with the association. The association, during a press briefing in Abuja, says that the MOU forms the totality of its mandates, comprising 19 in number, and addressing critical concerns bordering on improved welfare, increased salaries, including issues affecting their professional practice nationwide.
The NEC rejects the decision of the federal government or the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare to redeploy the 5 disengaged resident doctors of the Federal Teaching Hospital, Lokoja, to another federal teaching hospital and demands their immediate and unconditional reinstatement in FTH Lokoja. The NEC demands the immediate transition or transmission of the compiled promotion areas owed to resident doctors across several institutions to the Budget Office and the Federal Ministry of Finance for prompt processing and payment. The NEC demands the immediate transmission of the compiled salary areas owed to resident doctors in affected institutions to the Budget Office and the Ministry of Finance for urgent processing and payment. The NEC demands the full implementation of the approved professional allowance table, the PAT, including the payment of all accrued areas, and insists that these areas be comprehensively captured and funded in the 2026 national budget. The NEC demands that the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare issue without further delay an official clarification and directive on skipping and entry-level placement to all chief executives of health institutions with attention to the integrated personnel and payroll information system.
The Omieko Project has appointed Dr. Segun Alabi as its new head of communications and media. In a statement that carries his appointment, Alabi brings extensive experience in corporate communications, public affairs, and media relations, having previously served at the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, where he led a corporate communications, public affairs, and event management activities. Project officials say his appointment will strengthen public engagement and promote project's vision of sustainable urban mobility. Staying in Lagos, a series of fire outbreaks across major markets in the states during the Yuletide has raised fresh concerns about fire prevention, emergency preparedness, and public safety. In just 1 week, at least 3 markets were affected, resulting in heavy losses for traders and disrupting economic activities. News Central's Israel Ifiruba reports expert recommendations to prevent future disasters.
The Lagos State Fire Emergency Team, I'm always happy with them. I'm amazed when I see the way they respond to emergencies. But even with all the equipment, if you cannot assess the scene of the incident, what will happen? You cannot extinguish the fire.
The worst incident occurred on December 24, when a fire gutted the Great Nigeria Insurance House in Balogun Market on Lagos Island. The blaze spread quickly, exposing gaps in fire detection, emergency exits, and access for rescue teams in crowded commercial spaces. Just days later, another fire destroyed several shops near Ikotu roundabout, less than 72 hours after a blaze affected Arena Market in Bolade Oshodi. These repeated incidents underscore persistent safety and regulatory challenges in Lagos markets.
Poor electrical regulation or installations in the market. You see people use substandard wiring, poor electrical practices, tapping of electricity. Some guys are in some of the market, they call them NEPA 2, and then they are the ones selling electricity to people that cannot afford generator.
For me, as an expert, I'll be looking at ignorance of what fire causes or what fire is and why so many of them are not educated on how to respond to fire or how to put safety measures on ground to avoid fire.
Experts say that overcrowding and poor market layouts make containing fires extremely difficult once they start.
Whenever there is overcrowding, what you are going to have is you are going to have high level of fuel load. By fuel, we refer to anything that can combust, that can burn, any combustible material. These materials can be in solid, liquid, and gases.
If a car cannot drive freely in a market, it is a problem. Because there's an emergency, you need your fire truck to drive to that scene of incidents. But now, just take a closer look at our markets. They use generator to power their activities. Virtually everything in the market are combustibles. Now, what about electrical wiring in our markets? When you consider all these things, you find out that it is just a time bomb.
Authorities note that stronger collaboration between government agencies, market associations, and safety professionals is crucial to reduce the risk of fire.
They should educate the public on how to use fire extinguishers and the types of fire extinguishers they should have in those kind of marketplace, because we have classes of fire and different types of extinguishers.
Fire is preventable, but people need to know the right thing to do to prevent it from happening.
As Lagos grows as a commercial hub, improving fire safety in public markets is vital in protecting lives, livelihoods, and property. In Lagos, for News Central, Israel Ifiruba.
Now to a rather sad development. President Bola Tinubu has expressed deep sadness over the death of Nkanu Nnamdi, the young son of renowned Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie and her husband, Dr. Ivara Esege. The family confirmed the tragic loss in a statement released on Thursday, saying the 21-month-old child died on Wednesday after a brief illness. They described themselves as devastated and asked for privacy as they mourn. In a condolence message issued by his special advisor on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, President Tinubu said no pain compares to losing a child. He said he shared in the family's grief and offered prayers for strength and comfort during the difficult time. Still ahead, President Trump withdraws U.S. from key climate treaty and dozens other groups, calls them wasteful and ineffective. That story and more after the timeout. Welcome back again. We now head to the U.S., where the White House has announced plans to withdraw from 66 international organizations following a sweeping foreign policy review ordered by President Donald Trump. The decision, finalized on January the 7th, 2026, will end U.S. participation and funding in organizations the administration says no longer align with American interests. Under the order, the United States will pull out of 31 United Nations affiliated bodies and 35 non-UN organizations covering areas such as climate policy, migration, labor, and global governance. Tensions have risen in the U.S. city of Minneapolis after protesters clashed with federal immigration agents following the fatal shooting of a woman by an immigration officer. Demonstrators gathered on Thursday to demand justice and accountability over the killing, which has sparked widespread anger in the city. As the protests grew, federal agents moved in using paper-ball guns and tear gas to disperse the crowd. At least one protester was arrested during the confrontation. Witnesses say a large group of demonstrators faced off with heavily armed officers, with some protesters carrying signs accusing immigration and customs enforcement, known as ICE, of violence. Let's now cross live to Atlanta, Georgia, where an immigration lawyer, Joseph Babalola, is standing by to help unpack the development. Mr. Babalola, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Good to have you here tonight. So the shooting of a civilian, yes, you're welcome. So the shooting of a civilian by an ICE agent has sparked widespread fear and also protests. Now, legally, what implications does this incident have for how immigrants communities perceive and also interact with law enforcement?
Well, for one, they need to be extremely careful. And that's because right now we're not living at very, very normal times, like everyone knows. So the number one thing that I tell my clients, and I think should be the watchword, is you really have to take care of yourself, especially when you're actually interacting with all these immigration officers and also people that work with ICE, because you actually don't know who they are. You know, they're actually masked and the whole nine. So you really need to be very, very careful. So my watchword is safety at this time. Everyone needs to be very safe when you're interacting with them.
Safety is indeed the word. I don't know if you know, but immigrants have been reported to be avoiding hospitals, schools, and also police stations due to the fear of ICE. I'm wondering what the potential legal consequences are when fear of enforcement leads to communities disengaging from public institutions.
Well, the fact is that they have disengaged, not disengaging, but they've actually disengaged. Now, I go to court a lot, and what I'm beginning to notice now is that even people that have cases, they don't show up to court anymore, right? People that need to do grocery shopping, they don't do groceries anymore. People have stopped going to churches. A lot of immigrants have stopped going to churches. A lot of immigrants, the rule now is if you don't absolutely have to be anywhere, you don't go because of fear of apprehension and the anxiety that is generally in the air. So generally there have been a tremendous amount of impact on immigrants, and when it comes to their mobility and their ability to be able to stay safely within their environments.
We also hear that protests have spread nationwide, highlighting concerns over federal immigration operations. So could incidents like this actually force changes in federal immigration enforcement? Do you see this softening, or perhaps maybe the system softening after this, or maybe even going in harder?
I don't see it softening. I think that the issues and the policy statements have actually settled right now, in the sense that immigration enforcement is going way, way on the hard end of the spectrum right now. And it's not ebbing at all. There have been a tremendous amount of apprehensions, and people have been apprehended, right, in all places that you can actually think of. So in terms of it softening, I don't see it. Now, in terms of the protests, like a lot of the protests are actually very, very combustible in the sense that it just happens at the spur of the moment, either through social media or one of those. So I don't really see it softening, but I generally give it between 2 to 3 weeks, right? That's typically the lifetime cycle, and then things will generally begin to soften it a bit.
Okay, Mr. Babalola, the mayor has rejected, he has asked that ICE move out of Minneapolis. I'm wondering what the federal response would be.
Well, the thing is, you need to first of all start with MBCA, which is the Minneapolis Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. The federal government actually wanted to start up some kind of investigation, and Minneapolis had actually stated that they wanted to join in that investigation, and then the federal government said no, that they were going to do it on their own, and then they now came up with their own causes of actually what happened. So in terms of looking at the generality of things, in terms of what the mayor said, the mayor is correct. The mayor actually controls his own mayoral district, but in terms of actual power, right, because of the statuses of laws, federal always trumps state, and state always trumps the city. So federal laws always trump. And like immigration law is federal law, at least in the United States of America. So whatever policy directives comes from the federal government always supersede whatever comes from the state and also the city.
Well, Mr. Babalola, it's a bad situation out there. Do keep safe. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a good day.
Grand. Now, Iranian security forces have moved to clamp down on growing nationwide protests, firing tear gas at demonstrators who continue to challenge the country's clerical leadership. The unrest began by economic hardship and a collapsing currency. It spread to hundreds of locations, with human rights groups warning of a rising death toll as the government vows zero tolerance. For News Central, senior international correspondent Afia Hagen here has that report.
Security forces in Iran have fired tear gas to disperse protesters as demonstrations over the country's deepening anger has been fueled by soaring prices, a collapsing currency, and years of sanctions, placing growing pressure on Iran's clerical leadership at a time when the country is still recovering from June's war with Israel. The unrest began with a shutdown of Tehran's Grand Bazaar after the rial plunged to record lows. Since then, protests have spread nationwide, evolving into larger and more confrontational demonstrations. Authorities have blamed what they call rioters and vowed harsh punishment. State media reports that an Iranian police officer was stabbed to death near Tehran whilst attempting to control unrest. From exile, opposition figure Reza Pahlavi has urged Iranians to escalate protests, describing recent turnout as unprecedented. He claims the government is attempting to shut down internet access to stem dissent. Videos verified by rights groups show crowds pulling down statues, lighting fires in the streets, and security forces using tear gas and live fire in several cities. Human rights organizations say at least 27 protesters, including teenagers, have been killed so far, warning the toll is likely to rise. Iran's leadership now faces its most sustained domestic challenge in years. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagen.
Turns with business, sports, and entertainment. Do stay with us.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
Talking business now, retailers and consumers are cautiously optimistic as liquefied petroleum gas supply improves and prices ease across Nigeria. A market survey shows cooking gas now sells between 1,000 naira and 1,400 naira per kilogram, depending on location, down from peaks of about 2,000 naira per kilogram during the severe scarcity in September and October 2025. Improved availability late in the year followed disruptions linked to disputes involving the Dangote refinery and Pengasin. Retailers say the LPG market has stabilized, with supplies reaching Apapa, Lagos, and some major marketers selling as low as 900 naira per kilogram. However, consumers still hope prices will fall below 1,000 naira to boost clean cooking adoption. We also tell you that African Airlines led global aviation growth in November 2025, recording the strongest increase in international passenger demand, up 11.2% year-on-year, and that's according to the International Air Transport Association. The performance underscores Africa's rising importance in cross-border air travel despite persistent industry constraints. Capacity also expanded, with available seat kilometers growing 8.5%, while the load factor improved to 74.3%, up 1.8 percentage points from 2024. Globally, total passenger demand rose 5.7%, driven by a 7.7% increase in international travel, pushing the global load factor to a record 83.7% amid ongoing aerospace supply chain capacity challenges. Now we tell you that the equities market closed slightly higher, with the all-share index edging up 0.13% to 160,806.56 points, lifting market capitalization to 102.82 trillion naira, reflecting cautious sentiments. Looking at sectoral performance, we see that the banking sector dipped 0.4%, pressured by mild profit-taking, with GTCO and Zenith Bank leading the trading session. Insurance fell sharply by 3.07%, as sell pressure intensified in counters like ICO and Constant Insurance. Oil and gas was nearly flat, down 0.11%, with minimal movements. However, supply topped volume charts, reflecting strong investor interest. Consumer goods rose 0.55%, buoyed by gains in Nigerian dairies and Dangote sugar. And industrial goods added 0.11%, with cement majors showing modest support. That's all on business. I am Lekon Onabanjo.
Hello and welcome to sports. Nigeria's Super Eagles have arrived in Marrakesh, Morocco, ahead of their quarter-final showdown against Algeria at the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. The team settled into their hotel and subsequently held a training session this evening. On Wednesday, reports filtered out that the players threatened to boycott training or even travel to Marrakesh for the match, but the team's arrival comes amid assurances from the federal government that outstanding match bonuses are being processed and will be paid without delay. Nigeria's Minister of State for Finance, Doris Nkiruka Uzoka Anite, confirmed that all group stage bonuses had been released and that final transfers to players' accounts were underway following the streamlining of foreign exchange procedures with the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, Saturday's fixture against Algeria will be the 10th meeting between both teams at the Africa Cup of Nations, with both teams winning 4 games apiece and drawing once. Meanwhile, Algeria's Football Federation has apologized to a Congolese superfan who has become one of the stars of the Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Michel Mboladinga has supported the Democratic Republic of Congo by dressing up as the country's revered first leader, Patrice Lumumba, and remaining stock still throughout every match. But after Algeria beat the Leopards on Tuesday, Algerian player Mohamed Amin Amoura faced a backlash for taunting Mboladinga, but he subsequently apologized on Instagram. The Algerian Football Association reached out to Mboladinga following Amoura's contrite statement and invited him to the team's hotel in Rabat to meet the players. He was presented with his own Desert Foxes jersey with the name Lumumba printed on the back, and videos and photos of the occasion also showed Congolese Sports Minister Didier Budimbu in attendance. Meanwhile, Anthony Joshua has paid tribute to close friends Sina Gami and Lateef Lats Ayodele, who were killed in a car crash in Nigeria, saying he's finding it tough to process their deaths. Gami and Ayodele died when the vehicle they were in alongside the heavyweight boxer Joshua and another passenger collided with a stationary truck on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Joshua sustained minor injuries in the crash before flying home to the United Kingdom and attending the funeral at a mosque in London on Sunday. In his post on Thursday, the two-time heavyweight champion shared his shock at their loss and highlighted their immense value as individuals. He expressed how tough their passing has been for him and their families, saying, and I quote, 100% it's tough for me, but I know it's been even tougher for their parents. I have a strong mind and I believe God knows their hearts. May God have mercy on my brothers. The driver of the vehicle, Kayode Adeni, has been charged at the Shagamu Magistrates Court on charges including causing death by dangerous driving. He was granted a bail of 5 million naira and remanded in custody pending his bail conditions being met. The case has been adjourned up until the 20th of January. And finally, the Lagos State House of Assembly has confirmed Mr. Wahid Enito Oshodi as chairman of the Lagos State Sports Trust Fund Board of Trustees following his nomination by the governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. The confirmation followed the presentation of a screening report by the chairman of the ad hoc committee, Honorable Fatai Mojid, who led the exercise in line with sections 106 and 192 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Honorable Mojid noted that the committee reviewed previous nominations to the position and found Mr. Oshodi suitable and qualified for the role. Consequently, the committee unanimously recommended that the former Commissioner for Youth and Sports and Social Development be approved. Oshodi is the current president of the African Table Tennis Federation and an executive vice president of the International Table Tennis Federation.
Tonight, in the world of entertainment, lawmaker and businessman Senator Ned Nwoko has responded to the recent development in his ongoing public dispute with Nollywood star Regina Daniels, insisting that temporary abstinence is not sobriety, as he reacted to her latest drug test result. In his response, the senator warned that a one-off test cannot erase months of alleged struggles with substance misuse, adding that a short period of abstinence does not equate to long-term sobriety. The drama marks the latest chapter in a feud that has played out across social media with explosive allegations from both sides. Ned Nwoko has previously claimed that Daniels has battled drug and alcohol abuse, citing medical and toxicology reports it says indicates dangerously high levels of substances at certain points, although the facility named in those reports has denied sharing such results publicly. Now moving away from that, Grammy-winning gospel singer and pastor Donnie McClurkin has strongly denied recent sexual abuse and assault allegations made against him in a civil lawsuit filed in New York. The lawsuit, brought by a former personal assistant, Giuseppe Colletto, accuses McClurkin of inappropriate sexual conduct and abuse over several years while serving as his spiritual mentor. The plaintiff alleges that incidents began in the early 2000s when he sought counseling at McClurkin's church and later worked closely with him. In response, McClurkin, through his attorney, Gregory S. Lisi Esquire, has called the claims contrived and untrue, insisting he will be vindicated and asking for prayers not only for himself, but also for his accuser as the legal process unfolds. Now that's it on entertainment news for tonight. I am Kate Adeogun.
And that's it on the news tonight. But before we go, here's a reminder of our top stories. Political groups have rejected Rivers Assembly's move to impeach Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy, and former Chief of Army Staff Tukur Buratai has filed defamation charges against former Major General Danjuma Ali Kefi. Protests ongoing in the United States after ICE agent shot woman dead during immigration raid. Now, do remember to send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number being displayed on your screens now. And do follow us on social media platforms. We are at News Central TV across the board. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times 274, and of course, on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.